A few days later, Russian drones were spotted over Romania. Then last Friday, 3 Russian fighter jets flew into Estonian airspace.
It's a lot of provocation, man. I haven't covered it at all. I haven't paid much attention to it.
On Sunday, Russian military aircraft were intercepted by German jets over the Baltic Sea. And on Monday, suspected Russian drones were spotted over Denmark and...
Again, though, Nato and EU just shoot them down. Just shoot them out of the air, bro.
Always
they want to play games, let's play.
Main airports, forcing them to close. All of these...
Imagine you can't fly somewhere because like that. That's when it actually hits your personal life. That's when it's like, damn, what?
Incidents have increased the pressure on NATO to respond, with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirming that from now on, Poland will shoot down flying objects without discussion when they violate our territory. Moreover, at the UN this week, US President Donald Trump also said that he thinks NATO should shoot down Russian aircraft that violate its airspace.
100%.
So in this video, we'll take a look at the recent escalations in Russia-NATO tensions and whether we could actually be on the cusp of a Russia-NATO war.
The question is really, why is Russia doing that, right? It's a very deep question. It seems ridiculous. It seems to me a little bit Hitler-esque, where if you're an authoritarian regime, you have to always show strength, right? You have to always be strong. Look, I'm probing Europe, right? It's important to stay in the seat of power. Also, I think Hitler-esquely speaking, Hitler-esque, I don't think it's so much testing. I don't know, man. I could be wrong, but it feels to me a lot like just, look how strong I am. Ha ha. Also, maybe a bit of just insanity. Hitler was insane, right? All these dictators will just do insane stuff that was irrational. Irrational behavior, man,
Denmark can't defend itself. But Germany sent FGS Hamburg to protect Copenhagen from drones. Thank you to Germany and TommyKay taxes.
You're welcome, Danish guy. Thank you. Dick measuring.
Dive deeper into politics with our magazine Too Long. Yep, we make a real physical magazine. In the latest issue, we discuss if Europe can really defend itself, why people like Putin get away.
I mean, imagine you're a Polish fighter jet and they're a Russian one, and they're like, go fly over Poland. But they say they shoot now. Vladimir, just fly, brother.
Away with it, and whether we're observing the end of the American order. Find out more by clicking the link in the description. First, let's summarize the recent events in Europe. A little over 2 weeks ago, on the 9th of September, at least...
1 sec. I don't know why there's no message. Sorry, Kelly. I started my master's degree in engineering, so won't be able to watch for a while. Here's $500. Thank you, Kelly, man. Thank you. Once again, you guys are starting to have real lives, and then you stop watching me. You're like little chickens that are leaving my nest. And you know what? I'm proud. I'm proud, Kelly.
19 Russian drones flew into Polish airspace, several of which were shot down by NATO forces. This happened just before Russia's planned military drills in Belarus, which involved around 13,000 troops training to use Russia's Oreshnik missile system, which is capable of carrying nuclear warheads and is scheduled for delivery to Belarus by the end of 2025. Anyway, during the drills, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia imposed partial airspace closures in case Russian drones or aircraft entered their airspace and needed to be shot down. And also, Poland deployed 40,000 troops to its eastern border with Belarus. After the Russian drone incursion, Poland invoked NATO's Article 4 to request consultations between NATO members. Following the talks, on the 12th of September, NATO launched its new Eastern Century military operation, which saw France, Germany, Denmark and the UK send fighter jets to Eastern Europe for a collective aerial defense effort.
We've done it, like, why do we do this now, right? After
the
all
Eastern Century mission builds on NATO's pre-existing Baltic strategy and is intended to gradually expand aerial defense from the Arctic to the north of the Black Sea and the Mediterranean in the south. However, last Friday, the 19th of September, another more serious violation of NATO airspace occurred when 3 MiG-31 fighter jets flew over Estonia, spending 12 minutes there before eventually encountering Italian jets and turning around. The incident...
Imagine how weird it must feel, like you're a legit fighter jet, and they're like, Mr. Italian guy, Giovanni, Gianluca, you will go up there and you will engage them, right? And damn. But these guys are probably well-trained. They're probably professionals, unemotional, objective.
Reminded some observers of an incursion into Turkish airspace in 2012 by a Russian fighter jet, which was shot down after just 17 seconds. And since then...
I mean, damn. Turkey mentioned. Wallabila. Damn, 17 seconds, bro. I also only need 17 seconds, man. But goddamn.
Russia hasn't tried again. This led some commentators to wonder why it took Europe so long to respond to Russian jets over Estonia last week. Now, it was obviously because NATO wants to avoid risking a war with Russia if it can, but also because, unlike Turkey, Estonia doesn't have its own fighter jet, so it can't make a national decision. Instead, it has to go through NATO, as well as the Italian government, whose jets were on patrol. Anyway, this week at the UN, Poland's foreign minister announced that Poland would shoot down any Russian aircraft that entered its airspace without permission, deliberately or by mistake. Trump also agreed.
It totally makes sense, right? How is that weird, right?
With this, saying that NATO should shoot down Russian aircraft that violate NATO airspace. When asked to clarify whether the US would support NATO if it engaged Russian planes, Trump said it depends on the circumstance, but added, "We are very strong toward NATO." Trump has also pivoted on the Ukraine war, saying in a Truth Social post on Tuesday, "I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win."
Again, how can anyone take this guy serious, though? He changes his opinion every 5 minutes. It's so hard to put any trust into the leader of America here.
And all of Ukraine back in its original form. He also added that with the financial support of NATO, the original borders are very much an option. This has led some commentators to ask, is Russia already at war with NATO? Well, Russia is clearly engaged in what we might call a hybrid or grey zone campaign against NATO, using tactics like drones, sabotage, and cyber attacks. But in the sense that NATO still seems to define an armed attack, which is what's required to trigger the alliance's Article 5 Mutual Defense Clause, as a ground invasion, then obviously no. But exploiting the ambiguity around what exactly constitutes an armed attack, a strategy the media often refers to as Russia testing NATO, seems to be exactly the Kremlin's plan. We actually made a video about the ambiguity surrounding NATO's Article 5 last week, which we've linked in the description. But essentially, Russia is trying to weaken NATO from within by creating disagreements between member states over how to respond to things like drones.
Yeah, we're letting them do that. We're letting them do that. If we will just stand united, man, right? And stop all this fucking bullshit, especially voting for anti-European parties and stuff.
Airspace violations. You can imagine Poland or Estonia, for instance, demanding a strong reaction to some sort of territorial violation, but Trump being unwilling to risk war with another nuclear power over what he might see as just a bit of Eastern Europe. At the same time, Russia is apparently laying the rhetorical groundwork among its own population for a war with NATO, with Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov claiming last week that NATO is at war with Russia.
Imagine saying that. How fucking crazy that is. I have a bit personally this theory that it's this late stage Hitler and his circle stuff. They were all crazy. If you look at Goebbels and Göring, just all insane in the head, right? The Germans all have to die. We're not going to surrender. Just completely fucking gone. And it seems like that a bit. This psychopathic, complete irrational behavior. That and it's just these little elites that put so many lives in danger with this insanity. Of
course, there are lots of reasons to think that a war with NATO would be a bad idea for Russia. After all, if Russia is struggling in eastern Ukraine, then what makes Putin think he could take Estonia too, let alone Poland? But if the Kremlin thinks that a war with NATO is ultimately inevitable, they might have nonetheless decided that now is their best shot.
And that's what's scary, right? If you watch the movie Der Untergang with Hitler, right, his last days, Hitler was like, bro, I'm on a shrinking I'm on a sinking ship. Why not make some more fires? Why not take people down with me, right? That's what's scary. Like, these people don't care about Russian lives. They're just like, let's just, hopefully I'm wrong, but maybe they just think like, hey, let's escalate this. Who cares? I'm old. I'm fucking 76 years old. I'm gonna die soon. What the fuck do I care? And that is scary. That would be very scary if they think like that.
Russia's economy and society is already geared for war. Trump isn't wholly committed to Ukraine, and while most European countries have pledged to increase defense spending, these new investments won't pay off for some time. Anyway, so far NATO's main response has been to ramp up their air defenses on Europe's eastern borders. This both makes NATO more able to defend against Russian aggression, but also reduces the risk of intra-NATO disagreements. If Russian drones can't get into European territory, then there's less likely to be a disagreement over how to respond when one does land in, say, Poland or the Baltics. To this end, today, Friday 26th, EU countries including Bulgaria...
Why is bro not talking about the news? Because What? Can you make a coherent thought? Try that again. Let me write you down. Try a second thought that like is coherent.
Estonia, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and also Denmark are holding talks with the EU's defense commissioner, Andrius Kubilius, about building a drone wall. A drone defense system using radar, cameras, and existing anti-missile systems along
Hungary is actually refusing to be part of this drone wall. Hungary, man. It's like when you play Russia in Hoi 4 and you put all your spies in Hungary, trying to flip them. That's what's kind of going on here.
Use eastern flank to deter Russia from drone violations and respond rapidly if they do happen. Ukraine, which has rapidly developed its own drone manufacturing capabilities during its war with Russia, is also joining the project. This
Okay, Hunter, you had a chance. Permaban, you had a chance, bro. If that's
is obviously a good idea, but NATO needs to make sure that this so-called drone wall is up and running as soon as possible.
Thank you, Trust.
As the immediate risk is that Russia increases the frequency of its drone attacks to squeeze in as many as it can before the drone wall is up. The media landscape right now is moving so fast.
Okay, now he does commercials. Okay. The simple way to send more arms to Ukraine, prepare for World War III. A new video 3 days ago, 1,000 views already. This is all just videos I found. Don't forget, chat, we have a new channel in my Discord. If you go to TommyKay, you can now upload stuff I shall react to. Most people just send me stuff about motherfucking weird shit. We have some interesting stuff. What the fuck? Oh, okay. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff here. Oh, there's actually Roman Empire! You fucking moron. There's actually Roman Empire, this fucking idiot. So you have a lot going on there, man. Let's watch a bit. What the fuck? Roman Empire.
Solutions. And what you are looking at now are those...
I like this guy. I remember his voice. I like his videos.
Modern solutions. No, I am not saying that specifically because drones are getting produced here. Rather, it is the manufacturing process itself that allows them to fill a void that legacy military contractors have left. Let me explain. At the risk of making an understatement, Ukraine is embarrassingly underarmed. What is happening along Europe's eastern flank...
Embarrassingly? Are they? Do you have to add the word embarrassingly there?
...right now is a proxy war between NATO and Russia. And if that was not clear, Russia accidentally flying 20 or so drones into Poland.
Accidentally? This guy's using weird speech. Okay. Let's keep going.
Poland is all the evidence that you need. And if that still was not clear, Russia accidentally flying some MiG-31s into Estonian airspace is all the evidence that you need times 2. But if this is a proxy war, it, in theory, should not be close. NATO countries collectively have a GDP of around $54 trillion. Russia's GDP is $2 trillion, which, scaling font sizes accordingly, would look like this.
This is why we should push a bit more, I think. The nukes, the fucking nukes, right? But you gotta slap this authoritarian fuckface a little bit.
However you may wish to adjust for purchasing power, Russia...
Is that Russian money? 2,000 rubles. Oh, you kinda inflated, huh? That's Russian money. I've never seen that. Looks like a euro almost.
...should be overwhelmed. But that is not the case. Russia continues to creep westward, slowly but consistently. At just under 600 square kilometers to the total...
Is it, man? They're taking like 2 villages like per year? I don't know.
...from the previous month. Some of the difference is that Russia has way more people, and has some North Korean soldiers to boot. Still,
imagine a world where our kids will ask us, why did North Korea help, but we didn't? Like with ground units, right? Isn't that fucking crazy when you think about it? North Korea has more impact than Europe, man.
Equal part of the problem is that the West has not properly equipped Ukraine for the challenge. A failure that both sides of the Atlantic share. And yet, there may still be a simple solution to the problem. Not in the massive factories that normally define the prime defense contractors, but rather in the ordinary backyards of average people like you and me, and in modest production facilities of seemingly normal civilian companies. The bankroll problem. In the West, the vast majority of military spending is not done by our respective government's employees. Rather, the spending goes through private contractors. A government decides that it needs something. It solicits bids from those defense contractors.
And you're telling me that these cameras had only like one shitty video from the plane? Nah, man, that shit was weird, bro.
Each interested defense contractor looks at what the government wants, thinks about what the company is capable of doing, and quotes the government a price. The government looks at the bids and selects the best, balancing price with the various contract.
We heard years ago, right? There's corruption going on there, where like a fucking bullet is $10,000. There's a lot of weird corruption going on, where these people help out the government people. The government people, yeah, I'm gonna take you for the job. We're gonna take your offer.
Actors reported specifications and plausibility that they can produce what they claim. Thus, defense production is at the mercy of government budgets. No money, no metal. You likely know the deeper story of how a good chunk of that money went away, and thus, so did a bunch of that metal. The Cold War ended.
Thank you, Benyas.
And Western defense budgets shriveled up. The peace dividend and all that. And, you know what? It made sense. The Western world was no longer under the same threat that it once was. With the walls torn down, it would be better to lower taxes and make more productive investments than sink cash into weapons of war. The United States and others could finally pull back on the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower had warned about 3 decades earlier. But then Russia annexed Crimea, NATO allies in Wales agreed to spend 2% of GDP on defense, very few of them made fundamental changes to their budgets, Russia invaded the rest of Ukraine, and then the allies at The Hague decided to raise core defense spending targets to 3.5%. Moreover, there is a general sense that the allies are actually making movements here. The 3.5%
he calls them the allies, bro.
0.5%
allies.
Or something like that.
It feels nice as a German. I'm part of the allies now. Damn, if Grandpa would have known that, bro.
Seems to be happening. So, problem solved. Right? The Last Supper. The date was July 21st, 1993. Every major U.S. defense contractor had been summoned to Washington, but none of them knew why. The whispers around the Pentagon indicated that, whatever was happening, it was not good news for them. Les Aspin had become the Secretary of Defense exactly 6 months earlier. Bro. Previously, he was a representative from Wisconsin, and widely known as a skeptic of post-Cold War DoD spending. Also telling, President Clinton had campaigned on a bottom-up review of the defense budget, after the Persian Gulf War stalled George H.W. Bush's disbursement of the peace dividend. After a quick meal inside of the Pentagon, Aspin corralled the defense contractors into a conference room and turned things over to Deputy Secretary of Defense William Perry. The refrigerator, you may ask? No, he was about to put spending in the freezer. Perry showed the contractors a graph of projected military spending over the next few years. It pointed exactly where you might expect.
Which made sense back then. When I was young, I thought the same, that it should go down. But unfortunately, I had to wake up too. You will always have crazy fuckers like Putin that you have to protect against.
What followed was more or less an ultimatum. The reduced budget would be insufficient to support dozens of prime contractors. Either merge or go out of business. The contractors listened and chose the former. Companies like Northrop Corporation and Grumman Corporation became Northrop Grumman. Very original naming scheme. Companies like Lockheed and Martin Marietta became Lockheed Martin. I'm detecting a pattern here. Norm Augustine, who was the CEO of Martin Marietta at the time of all of this chaos, and would later become the CEO of Lockheed Martin, called it the Last Supper of the defense industry. Augustine's flair for the dramatic aside, Clinton got what he wanted, a more streamlined defense industry, capable of surviving an inflation-adjusted 26% cut in spending from 1991 to 1996. But it came at a cost, the loss of spare capacity. With purchase orders from the Pentagon dropping, the merged companies were not about to keep redundant factories idle. Instead, they simply closed their doors. And no shade to Clinton here. it was the right call for American taxpayers given the context.
Is there a woman under the table?
At the time. That context was not a growing threat to the then emerging New World Order. Rather, Augustine likes to tell an anecdote from his trip to China in 1978. He was one of the first Americans to go there, and the locals were curious and, well, puzzled. They had heard that people in the United States were wealthy. But how wealthy? They inquired about the number of bicycles that Americans owned, because that was the everyman metric of wealth in China at the time. Sure, China had its fair share of cars back then, but cars seemed like an unobtainable luxury item to the ordinary Chinese citizen.
This video is jumping around so much.
That was only 15
what?
years before William Perry's Last Supper announcement. In
Warmongering
1993,
situation.
China's GDP was only $1 trillion. By 2024, it had jumped to $38 trillion. But it was the 1993 figure that set the Clinton administration's mindset at the time. It would be another decade until anyone started talking about an Indo-Pacific pivot, and 15 years until there was any remote sincerity behind it. Now, the Clinton administration's goal was to keep the Department of Defense agile over the upcoming...
Pentagon is big, huh? Damn, that's a lot of offices. But what a nice park. Must be nice sitting here. They probably have their own little food stores in there, huh? Damn, that's big.
...coming years, lest it run into problems down the line. 3 decades later...
In a second, he will start talking about the 1972 Olympics. Nah, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
...run into problems down the line. The gap. Econ Pop Quiz. In the short run, what happens when supply is fixed, but demand increases?
Prices rise.
Answer: prices go up, but production remains constant. That is the problem that Western governments are about to confront. A defense budget increase from 2% to 3.5% of GDP would seem to buy a ton more metal. But that assumes that the metal exists to be purchased.
Shut up.
And The Last Supper has something to say about that. Without excess factory capacity, defense contractors can barely scale up production.
How similar is China to the US? Be honest, Tommy. What? What a 12-year-old comment. What?
Maybe they can add a shift here or there, but they are not going to increase production by the 75% that the Hague Summit would need them to. In fact, NATO is well aware of this problem. This is why the jump from 2% to 3.5% will be spaced out over multiple years. Part of this is to give allied governments time to figure out how to find the extra money in the budget. But another part is to give defense contractors time to expand capacity. Otherwise, the alliance will just pay more for almost the exact same amount of stuff.
Be honest,
if
guys.
1993 was the Last Supper, then 2025 is the first breakfast. One issue, though. We are not yet eating.
What are we already? What is this guy yapping, man? Totally we're eating. What is this guy talking about? They're all growing for years. What is this guy talking? 2022 was the beginning of the first breakfast, not 2025. This guy's fucking terrible. It's a terrible video.
Fortunately, manufacturers cannot build their signature massive metal monstrosities overnight. The defense contractors still need to set the table. That leaves a yawning gap for the alliance to bridge in the meantime. And nowhere is this problem more apparent than in Ukraine. Yes, we all know how Kyiv would love more 155mm shells. The problem is that those things go boom, and if they do not go boom correctly, then you may go boom as you try to launch one.
What?
It turns out that precision and explosion are not a good combination for rapid mass production. This is what 80 155mm shells look like if you detonate them at the same time. Regardless, the problem goes up and down the line. Remember that NATO program for European countries to buy weapons from the United States to send to Ukraine? Well, it is a bit more complicated than that. The program is called PEARL, Priority Ukraine Requirements List. Emphasis on priority. The United States is not making additional weapons that then just so happen to go to Ukraine. At least, that is not what is happening in the short run. You see, one cannot make additional weapons in this sense when one is already operating at maximum capacity. Rather, European purchasers just get to jump the line, receiving their orders ahead of others who had reserved earlier spots. It is the same problem all over again. There's also a more subtle issue.
200,000 views.
Consolidation following the Last Supper eventually reduced the United States to 5 primary defense contractors: Lockheed Martin, RTX Corporation, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Northrop Grumman. Whereas the Cold War defense contracting economy felt closer to a competitive market because of the abundance of the contractors, today's situation feels more like an oligopoly. Undoubtedly, those companies will want to expand to some degree to capture a larger portion of the defense pie. But such expansions require enormous capital outlays, and unlike a fully competitive market, oligopolies tend to find a way to move slowly here. After all, the less that they expand, the higher prices that they can collectively command, which in turn yields collectively higher profits. Again, this is a problem that the Clinton administration foresaw. More than 30 years later...
I'm out. Man, that was a terrible video, man. Holy shit. Fucking hell. Next video. Another one I saw. 750,000 views, man. Jesus Christ. Next video. Damn, that was fucking... That was terrible. Trump Netanyahu press conference about to start. Tell me when they're starting. Tell me when they're starting.
Right now, the war in Ukraine is getting very interesting.
Tell me when they're starting.
Things are developing and changing very quickly in a direction that seems very positive for those who support Ukraine. A lot has been happening lately, and we are seeing potentially now a shift in strategy that might indicate that we are now reaching the end phases of the war, the beginning of the end. But if we haven't reached the beginning of the end,
video,
at least to borrow the words of Winston Churchill in World War II.
What is this? Is this guy AI too? Why does it look so weird?
We have definitely at least reached the end of the beginning.
Why does everything look so weird? Is everything AI on this planet? Am I going insane?
Where strategies that have been kind of developing over years are now reaching maturity.
I think now he looks normal.
Beginning of Russia's
For a second, it looked really fucked up. I think it was me, though.
Invasion, which is several years back now. Ukraine has always been very explicit, very clear, and even very public about what their strategy to ultimately defeat Russia was. Where they would engage Russia in a war of attrition.
This guy's just running. Okay, I don't know. What is going on? I'm very confused. 750,000 views, and it's just a guy yapping the whole time?
Told by Moscow, but that gets all...
And it looks super AI. What is going on? What is happening? Sorry, guys. I really prepared some shitty videos, man.
All of its power from the surrounding territories, gets all of its resources, gets all of its soldiers, etc.
Okay. Right now, maybe he has something good to say, though. Let's keep listening. I want to give it another chance. I want to give it another chance. It's super... I don't know if it's AI. I don't know. Let's watch again. Let's watch again. Let's give it another chance.
Getting very interesting, and things are developing and changing very quickly.
But just standing there talking is so weird.
For those who support Ukraine. A lot has been happening lately, and we are seeing potentially now a shift in strategy that might indicate that we are now reaching the end phases of the war, the beginning of the end. But if we haven't reached the beginning of the end, at least to borrow the words of Winston Churchill in World War II,
I think it's not AI. It looks AI, though. Our brain is getting fucked. Our brain is getting fucked, huh? I think this is a real video. It looks AI, though. It is AI? He put like AI over it?
Definitely at least reached the end.
It looks super... Dude, what is... I'm super shocked right now. What is going on this planet? Yeah, there's like a filter over it. And 750,000 people are just okay with it? Like, no one bothers about this? I am so confused. Are you a real human being? Are you real? Are you a real human? Are you real? Yeah, you look real. I am so confused, man. What a weird video. I'm very, very weirded out right now.
Use their defensive advantages to make the war far too costly for Russia.
That's the world now. Look at him, right? Something is super off. Stop ADHD. It's not ADHD, you fucker. 24-hour ban. I'm not wrong here, right? Check his other videos, yeah. There's something off, or am I insane? He just talks the whole time. Every video is the same. He just talks.
Right now, it's the end of August. In
1 million views.
Days, it will be September, and then within a few short weeks or months, in parts of the northern hemisphere,
green screen, huh?
winter conditions will begin to set in, and they will not relent for
millions of views. Okay, I'm just a bit confused. I'm very confused boomer right now, man. What is with all these people just talking? It's kind of cool, actually. What the fuck? I can't watch that, man. Not enough pictures. Not enough pictures, man. Jesus, man. It must be the green screen?
Welcome back, Defenders.
Welcome back, Defenders. 500k views in 17 hours. These guys are massive. Okay, let's give it a chance. It's maybe just ADHD brain.
Welcome back, Defenders.
Defenders?
The destruction of Russia's oil industry continues. Ukraine's deep strike campaign is significantly crippling Russian military logistics as the fuel crisis worsens. This is according to General Syrskyi. Here's what he has to say. The capabilities of the enemy's military-industrial complex have been significantly reduced. We can see this on the battlefield.
I just want to say, I'm very new to these calmer videos. I'm used to videos with a lot of pictures and stuff. Zoomer shit. These videos are much calmer. It's just a guy talking, which is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. It's just I realize how my brain isn't used to this anymore.
This is a fuel crisis in Russia, which directly affects logistics and the supply of its army. Ukraine is not just striking these refineries for the economic impact. That's important. But this is directly affecting the performance of frontline Russian troops today. The Russian military needs gasoline. It needs diesel, lubricant, jet fuel. Every time one of these refineries goes offline, yes, this affects the combat performance of Russia's frontline forces.
Pay some attention.
Which is why Ukraine cannot stop. Ukraine must continue striking these refineries. Ukrainian drones hit major oil refinery in southern Russia for the second time in a month. This is the Afipsky refinery in Krasnodar. This is where it's located. Ukraine has now struck this numerous times. There are pictures and videos showing the refinery on fire in the distance. I'll link it down below. But here's the war map. Updated again.
Interesting.
Here is the Afipsky refinery.
Actually, very interesting.
It's only 415 kilometers from the border, and it produces.
You can say what you want, man. You have to just agree. Or it looks like a fact. This is costing Russia, man. This war is fucking with Russia a bit. This cannot just go behind them and be nothing to them, right?
Million tons
all this
of
damage is stacking, man.
Ukraine struck this refinery once in 2023, once in 2024, and now.
Can't you do? I have a weird question. Can't you do underground oil facilities? That must be possible. Like the saving of it, the silos, the pumps. Can't they be underground, man?
3 times.
The thing is, probably back in the day, you wouldn't too costly, super expensive. Also, probably they didn't think about war back in the day. Like, oh, this refinery is gonna get bombed. You probably don't think that as an architect.
2 months. So there's something I think special about this refinery. I don't know, but perhaps gasoline from this refinery is what is shipped to Crimea. And if this refinery goes offline, yes, there's going to be shortages in Crimea, but Russia has to rearrange their logistics. Some other refinery that's not been taken offline has to redirect, causing shortages somewhere else. Could be the reason. Ukrainian military strikes 3 gas distribution stations in occupied Luhansk. This is Ukraine's 14th Regiment. They released the drone pictures showing successful strikes on this gas distribution.
So, like, Russia has no anti-drone measures there? Like, drone incoming, shoot it down or something? Like a little dome?
Stations in Luhansk.
They just get through like that?
3 of them. I guess they're offline. Oil pumping station in Russia's Chuvashia Republic suspends operations after a drone attack. This pipeline, or...
So these Ukrainians must have learned a lot in this war. The Ukrainian army is probably very educated now. These people are fucking veterans. They're probably PTSD'd and fucked up in their heads now after a war like this. But they probably know a lot now about how to actually war, man. After the war, we should really invite them to the EU and talk to them and listen to them.
Chuvashia Republic is located right here.
Well, they kind of did, yeah.
Way east.
But let's not forget the physical issues, right?
Moscow. This is what the pumping station looks like, and Ukraine successfully struck it. This is pretty remote Russia, so I don't think we're going to get any pictures or videos. But Russia confirmed that the pipeline is offline. This is the Almatevsk-Gorky oil pipeline. It's another target. Another thing
Russia even banned export of gasoline, since these attacks are crippling domestic energy supply.
Has to protect. Here's the results. Here is our progress meter. 1 in 50 gas stations in Russia stop selling fuel.
Any Russians in chat feel this? I feel like I have one Russian here. Any
Even
Russians
Moscow
feel this?
Feels the pinch. So whenever
there's extreme lineups at Russian gas stations, really? These gas attacks are intelligent. Have you heard BBC investigation says 100,000, 20,000 Russians dead? Not many Russians on Twitch. They're all on Kick.
These regions experience a shortage, it doesn't actually last very long, but these disruptions are very concerning to the private gas station owners. And rather than having inconsistency,
in Moscow, where I live, they want to make sure the city runs well. I heard that once, that Putin wants to make St. Petersburg, Moscow, the big cities, they have to be defended, you know, they are important.
Having Russian drivers mad at you all the time. Some Russian gas stations are just choosing to close down. They were barely operating at a profit before, and now they just can't deal with the chaos. Crimean fuel shortages expose reach of Ukraine's refinery targeting campaign. This has been confirmed more or less by the Russians. 25% of their oil refining capacity has been knocked offline. Currently, 27,000 tons of surplus crude oil is being pumped and has nowhere to go. Ukraine is not striking the pumping stations in the Arctic. There's no need. If you destroy the pipelines, the pumping stations, the refineries, the export terminals,
real warfare, man.
The storage
these
depots,
pipelines, man. That's real war.
There's physically nowhere to
Moscow literally feels the same as before the war.
Put the oil after it comes out of the ground. So Russia just has to pump less. 14% of gas stations in the Caucasus, this is the southern district, they've been affected. But 50% of the gas stations on Crimea have been affected. No lines in Moscow region. These are the signs going up across Russia. This sign in Russian says, "We apologize, but 95 gasoline is only available with fuel cards for specific organizations." For example, if you're with the military or the government. This sign says, "Dear customers, 92 and 95 gasoline is available only for special purpose vehicles."
One friend Russia says it doesn't affect
government or military.
It often feels like I'm just yapping a bit now. I can't fully mega prove that, but what I always hear about Ukraine was that Putin is intelligent and he uses resources, for example, manpower from remote regions where if they die, nobody cares. No one cares if a boy from a village dies. No one is going to really care about that kind of shit. He's like using... The people suffering the most is these remote people that no one gives a shit about. They don't have a voice. They don't have no big media.
This sign says no gasoline or diesel fuel. And we've even got a report from Reuters. This is the reports that Reuters put out about the gas shortage in Crimea.
This is the line for gas at a station in Sevastopol, a port city in Russian-controlled Crimea. As Ukraine steps up its drone attacks on Russian refineries and export terminals, motorists are feeling the bite. A gasoline shortage has hit more than 10 regions across Russia, according to the Izvestia newspaper, citing a fuel producers union. This resident says he's had to queue for...
Does he have a USA pick? Look at that US polo ass. He has an American pullover.
For 40 minutes to fill his tank, but says he's not panicking quite yet. Sergei Aksionov.
40 minutes to fill up your tank. He's not panicking yet. This is the governor of Crimea, and I'm actually going to read for you specifically what he says. Because in this case, some of our plants are simply physically not working, that is, meaning we have problems and fuel
about to start
outages,
the press conference.
It is guaranteed that the situation will improve within 2 days when it comes to 95 gasoline. And within 2 weeks at most...
One sec. Okay, no, not yet.
The issue of the availability of 92 gasoline will be resolved. There are no problems with diesel fuel. The necessary quantities are available. The situation is objective, and I ask the residents of Crimea
unpredictable what's
and guests on the peninsula to be patient.
But I will say it again and again and again and again and again and again. The number one thing I believe in this entire conflict is we're so lucky Ukraine is holding. I don't care where you stand on the political spectrum. If Russia would have actually taken Ukraine in 3 days, they would have gotten so much momentum, so much power, they would have felt so ready to do even more damage. We are lucky, in my opinion, we are so lucky, we Europeans, that they fucking are holding. We owe them, and we need to applaud them, and boy, oh boy, are we fucking lucky.
By objective reasons.
Imagine a different world where they would have taken it in 3 days. Imagine that shit, man. You and me will be not... We will be a bit more fucking scared, probably. It will be much more scary.
So right, Mr.
Thank you, Doctor.
Well, I repeat once again that the issue with the 95 gasoline will be fully resolved within 2 days.
Watching the conference in a sec.
Within 2 weeks, it will be resolved for 92 gasoline.
But they're always late. Trump is always late to every conference.
He's lying. The situation is not going to get better. If, I guess, shipments of gasoline are redirected to Crimea, then there's just going to be shortages in other areas. It's a game of whack-a-mole. Yes, I think Putin might prioritize Crimea for the publicity, but
we gotta watch a video one day about the battle at the airport in Kiev. Like a legit, I don't know if we have the data on that, but the legit battle, what that looked like. That must have been a crazy battle at that airport.
Siberia is just going to be without gasoline.
Spetsnaz probably was so fucking... Wasn't it Spetsnaz? Weren't they like super like ready and trained, and then they got fucked up, man? Ukraine is clever. The main target is gas refineries and export ports for crude oil. In Russia, there's so much crude oil that if they hit it, it's not so damaged. But only some of amount that they can produce crude oil to gas, so they target refinery and Russia's threat to fuck.
This is a VOD problem.
Did we watch that? Oh, I want to watch that. Wow, I want to watch that, man. The battle. Damn, that's interesting. I want to watch that.
There's only so much that Russia can now produce with 25% of their capacity offline.
We did watch that? We did watch that. Yeah, I don't remember. We did watch that? I want to watch it again. Damn, look at that footage. Did we watch that? I don't remember that at all. Damn, I want to watch that.
But consumer demand is still there. Military demand.
So cool how we collect data like that nowadays. How we collect this data. And we have videos about real war and shit.
Demand is still there. Russia to partially ban diesel exports and extend gasoline restrictions after Ukrainian drone attacks. Russia made money by exporting refined oil products, and they've now got an export ban. This is problematic for Russian consumers because Russia made money by shipping their gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, whatever,
don't just do that.
To other countries. They made a nice profit. That profit subsidized the cost for gasoline for ordinary Russians. If Russia can't export, the government doesn't make money, but the subsidies...
First, that was crazy. You guys remember the first day of the invasion, how weird that felt? You're just on your phone all day, you're like, wait, this is happening? And you were like, do I have to be concerned? Are we okay? Do you guys remember that? That was a weird day, huh?
For Russian consumers is also gone now.
I had so many viewers, I remember.
This is going to upset a lot of Russians who have been used to cheap gasoline their entire lives. Then there's this. Firefighters battle massive blaze after truck collision derails trains in western Russia. This was a train coming from Belarus to Russia on the border.
Was it the army when this happened?
Something crazy happened.
Damn, that's weird.
A truck collided with
I was doing a lot of doom scrolling. Yeah, I was up at night watching all this shit.
I'll link the videos down below, but this is a massive ball of fire as 12 fuel cars derailed and then ignited because a truck hit it somehow.
Sounds
the
like
truck was reported
an attack,
to cross the tracks against a red light.
Sounds like an attack. You guys remember Prigozhin? That was so fun, man. That was actually fun to watch.
The as yet unidentified truck driver died, while the train driver and his assistant were injured but refused hospitalization. The train was carrying fuel and lubricants, apparently from Belarus, going to Russia. Was this sabotage? Was Ukraine behind it? I don't think they would get a driver to commit suicide to do this, but I don't know.
It feels
I don't know if this is just Russia being Russian.
It feels very perfect, right?
And they...
Dude, I was never so cockblocked in my life when Prigozhin stopped his march from Moscow, man. I was so fucking cockblocked,
and the border guards took all my mazut.
I was in Russia and the border guards took all my mazut? Your what? Thank you. Mazut?
The truck driver ran a red light and then slammed into a fuel car. Fuel that Russia desperately needs. Interesting.
Watch this, Tommy. We actually have news from our correspondent here. That's much more hair. Dude, I had actually more hair. What the fuck? And we're gonna ask Grisha Putin, what is he thinking of the situation? Grisha Putin, how do you think about all of this? Thank you, Grisha Putin, for your insight on the situation. This is so fucked up, dude. That's so fucked.
So that's what Ukraine is doing. They're playing to win. What are the Russians doing? More acts of terrorism. This was Russia's drone and missile attack last night. 643 aerial targets. You can see they've got drones, cruise missiles, and even ballistic missiles.
Wow, so much money going into this.
Dead.
Yet you do an attack like this, but the country still stands,
with drones and missiles. These are the pictures online this morning.
The grand enemy of Russia, these civilian houses. The true enemy.
And this is just heartbreaking. These are residential streets.
The true enemy right here, guys.
Military purpose. Russia just does this to commit terrorism.
What's opinion on Jake? I don't know him, but this feels great. This guy is kind of doing what I want to do with TommyKay News. Just sitting there and just showing facts and stuff and looking at shit. This is good. I have a pimple in my beard.
Let me read for you.
Don't forget this one, Tommy.
Crying? I think he's on online.
I don't cheer on this so much, though. I think this is not so funny because it's a fucking kid, man. It's a kid. It's a little kid that is massively influenced and fucked up and not his fault. Parents not taking care of him, growing up in a shitty country. I don't celebrate this too much. It's just very sad, man. Very sad. Because I met Grisha, I talked to him, I saw him. Grisha was a bright kid. He had beautiful art in his soul. He will do really funny streams, man. And just what a waste of a human being because of a stupid fucking regime. I don't celebrate this too much. It's just fucking sad.
What Zelensky is saying. A massive Russian attack on Ukraine last night for more than 12 hours. Savage strikes, a deliberate targeted terrorist against ordinary cities.
I have a pimple right here.
Nearly 500 attack drones and over 40 missiles.
The conference is live? No, you're fake news. You're fake newsing. Nothing is live yet. Stop fake newsing.
Including Kinzhal missiles. This morning, Russian Iranian Shaheeds are again in our skies. The main targets of the enemy was Kyiv, Sumy, Chernihiv, Odessa. As of now, 4 people have been reported killed in
including
Kyiv,
a 12-year-old girl.
Including a 12-year-old girl. My condolences
Fucking bitches that do something like that.
to all the families and the loved ones. This vile attack came virtually as the close of the UN General Assembly Week, and this is exactly how Russia...
The UN is assembling, and they're like spitting in our face. What are you gonna do, UN? I'm super pro-escalation, man. I said this for years now. I think we should show fucking bolts. Still tread carefully with nukes, but you cannot be such a bitch in the face of such evil. Thank you, Donner. Thank you.
It declares its true position. Moscow wants to keep fighting and killing, and it deserves the toughest pressure from the world. I'll link some of these videos down below if you just want to see
I have a pimple here. I gotta go.
Residential areas in the capital city of Kyiv, Zaporizhia, Odessa, Sumy. This is almost every night. So here is the message that Zelensky has directly for Putin. I'm going to read this. I think this is a very important video. But this is what Zelensky is now saying. Russia must clearly understand that civilized countries differ from barbaric ones in that they never strike first, and they are not the aggressors. But that doesn't mean they are weak, and you shouldn't show weakness. if there is a threat of a blackout, for example, in the capital city of Ukraine, the Kremlin must know that there will be a blackout in the Russian capital. This is a brief summary of some of the points we discussed with the president.
To me, the greatest person of the century
so
far.
Zelensky had a really good conversation with Trump, and I don't know why, but Trump was very receptive. There's talks about Trump possibly approving the sale of Tomahawk cruise missiles so that Zelensky can hit Moscow.
How does Trump make any sense, though? He meets with Putin, sucks his dick with the red carpet, and then he changes again. It must be very hard for him to handle Putin.
Zelensky has Trump. This new confidence.
Must be very hard.
This tweets and the statements put out by Trump, Zelensky is capitalizing on this momentum.
I'm really sorry. I have a pimple in my beard and have to really quickly pop it in the bathroom. I'm super sorry. 2 seconds. Oh.
Making threats to the Russians. And what he's telling them, if you continue going after our energy infrastructure, trying to shut off the lights, then Ukraine finally is going to retaliate. And this is what they did. After this drone and missile attack, Ukraine launched their own attack against the city of Belgorod. For the first...
Crazy, a country compared to Russia being so small can fight back like that. It's a good thing.
Time, I think, targeting Belgorod's thermal power plant. This is a big deal because this is a huge shift in what Ukraine has been trying to do. For the last 3.5 years, Ukraine has been very careful not to commit any war crimes.
Sorry, guys, I'm watching this thing, right? And they're waiting there for an hour. They're just standing there waiting, man, for these people to arrive.
By definition, a war crime is going after purely civilian infrastructure. But Russia's been doing this for 3.5 years. 80% of Ukraine's power generation came from thermal power plants, I believe. And Russia destroyed them all. Every coal and gas burning power plant in Ukraine, the Russians have already bombed and destroyed over the last 3.5 years. The only reliable power that Ukraine still has is the hydroelectric power plants and the remaining nuclear power plants. But Ukraine has had to import basically mobile power plants that burn natural gas or fuel. There's lots of generators in Ukraine to fill the electricity gaps, but Russia still targets them. Solyov on Kremlin State TV for 3 years has been bragging about going after energy infrastructure so that Ukrainians don't have any electricity, they don't have any heat, they don't have any running water.
But that's how war works, right? Russia wants the civilians to be mad at Zelensky. He knows he can't finish the war the way he wanted to, so now he has to make the civilians get mad, so they are gonna be anti-Zelensky, anti-war. Let's give these territories to Putin.
That has been Russia's objective to win this war for 3 years, committing war crimes and going after Ukraine's energy infrastructure. And Ukraine's...
What's your honest opinion on the future of this war? I don't know. I have no idea. I learned you cannot predict the world. Doesn't make sense to predict it. All I know is I wish we all do enough, that the West is doing enough to make sure that the outcome is good.
Not been fighting back. Ukraine for 3.5 years has not been responding by going after thermal power plants. But they did it. This is a monumental shift. So there is
every tyranny always falls. If you look at human history, every tyrannic authoritarian government will at some point fall.
Video of the strike on the thermal power plant. A Russian managed to catch it and then upload it online. I'll link this down below if you want to see it. But the city of Belgorod is without power. Because there's no power, there's
rumors and talks in Russia that Putin will do another mobilization to overrun Ukraine with just meat.
Pumping stations.
Jesus Christ.
So the residents of Belgorod also do not have running water. They can't pull water from their taps, they can't take showers, they can't flush their toilets. This is the moment when the power went out. Residents were in the local mall, and I'll just share a little bit of this clip.
Love you, Tommy.
Thank you, Gamers World. Thank you, man. This is in Russia.
Don't you just hate it when the escalator doesn't work? So here's the map. Here is the map of Russia showing all of their thermal power plants. You can see there's 4 down here in the southern district. There's 3 really close to the Ukrainian border. Even the ones near St. Petersburg. These are all within drone and now missile range of Ukraine. So I think this was Zelensky giving a final warning to the Russians. He's been way more generous than I would have been by now. But he's telling Russia, stop attacking our civil infrastructure. Otherwise, we have to retaliate. This has been Russia's strategy for 3.5 years. Asymmetrical warfare. Russia doesn't care about war crimes. Russia doesn't care what happens to civilians.
Russia doesn't have to care about any rules, but we always tell Ukraine to play by the rules.
Doesn't care what happens to POWs. There are
and
some
then I have
things
to sit here on the stream and debate little 12-year-olds telling me that Zelensky is the one true fucking evil in this war. It's fucking ridiculous.
That I think Ukraine would never do. Like, there's no reason to target civilians deliberately or torture POWs. Ukraine's not going to do that kind of stuff. But these thermal power plants, I think these are fair game. After what Russia has done the last 3 years, it's time. It's time just to take these things offline so Russia finally has an incentive to end this war.
Italy people are pro-Russia, buddy, hey. This is where I have no sentimentality, no understanding. If you live in Germany, Italy, France, Britain, and you are pro-Russia, you must be the most lost fucking person. You are equal to me to a flat earther, man. You must be so fucking gone.
Russia is using new tactics on the front. Sersky said Russia has switched its frontline tactics and was now deploying small groups of between 4 to 6 soldiers tasked with infiltrating Ukraine's defenses.
Yeah, they're now doing still infiltration techniques.
This salient that formed about a month and a half ago, the Russians went about 18 kilometers deep, but they didn't do this in a sustained attack. What Russia is doing is they're sending sabotage and infiltration groups through no man's land. They're giving them thermal cloaks to hide their heat signature.
In there with 6 people.
And they're just sending them in every direction, seeing how far they can get. So for this specific operation, they got pretty far. Russia then determined what a clear path was. So they rushed in a couple hundred or maybe more than 1,000 troops into this region. Ukraine identified it, responded, and this is now a kill zone. Ukraine's First Army Corps has encircled hundreds of Russian troops in 3 separate pockets.
That was like 2 weeks ago or something?
After they broke through Ukrainian lines near the city of Pokrovsk, and they're now methodically wiping them out. This is not going well for Russia, but there are remaining forces in this pocket, in this pocket, and in this pocket, and Ukraine is just picking them off. Ukraine has a containment area, and they're just using artillery and FPV drones to...
Pretty soon in this region will be a TommyKay funded, you guys funded it, piece of equipment. Piece of equipment, man.
Snipe.
They're not encircled, it's confirmed they are supplied.
From wherever they can. It's not going well for Russia.
Zelensky said in an interview that Russian soldiers are now better than NATO soldiers because they now have experience of war. I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, Zelensky knows more than me. But it seems to me, as a civilian that doesn't know shit, a very important thing about an army, from the officers to the soldiers, is intelligence and logical thinking. And one thing we've seen these last years is, what is the biggest quote of this war, right? It's the guy saying, God, are we lucky that they're so fucking stupid, right? Thank you, Momo Sham. Thank you. And I feel what we've seen in the last few years is that the Russians acted fucking dumb. And it's the scariest part will be if they start having a brain and start actually using their brain a little bit.
If anyone runs, shoot them. Russian commander heard ordering execution of his own deserters. This is a pretty incredible article. This is from the news agency Verstka. This is a Russian independent agency, obviously publishing information without the approval of the Kremlin. And this article documents or records what do mobilized Russian soldiers think and feel. Russia mobilized almost 500,000 troops. This was 3 years ago. And this organization has been reaching out to some of these soldiers on Telegram, trying to get their thoughts and opinions. And it's not positive.
We have equipment and good men, but the commandos are retards.
have found it particularly hard to deal with the indefinite nature of their service, which has led many of them and their relatives to describe their relationship with the Russian Ministry of Defense as slavery. These guys didn't sign a contract. They were reservists, because I think almost every adult Russian man who did a conscription service is technically in the reserves. But they didn't sign contracts. They didn't want to go to Ukraine. At first, they told us you'd go for 3 months at most, 6 months at most. After 6 months, we thought a year is the maximum. But soon we'll be entering our 4th year, and we're constantly thinking about...
I said a thing a long time ago, where I think I'm very wise. Certain wars have a discrepancy of moral. Certain wars, you have like an evil side and a good side, like Nazi Germany versus the Allies, right? And I think this reflects in morale. I think you're an American soldier in Northern Europe, you know you're fighting for something that's worth it. Whereas if you're a Russian invading Ukraine, you know that this is kind of fucked up. And I think this does something to people. I think this is such an important aspect of war. Like on average, obviously, on average. Not everyone, obviously.
Demobilization.
But there's like a Ukrainian soldier average just like, no, I'm protecting my fucking home here from a fucking invader. Where the Russians are more like, speech is starting? Okay, tell me when this is boring. Let's keep going.
Officer. All of these quotes are from this article. I'll link it down below. I'm just going to read a couple for you. Here are some more statements from the mobilized. I wish I could go back 3 years and tear up that draft notice. I'd rather take a suspended sentence than have spent all this time fighting and prison, suffering. Yeah. Every day out here has felt like a waste of my life. Meat. That's how they see us. Like we're not allowed to have our own opinions or feelings. We're just expendable bodies, sent out to do a job and nothing more. If only we could all go home at once, they'd excrete themselves. Others say that the Russian government is deliberately exterminating
I tore up my draft notice and nothing happened?
To replace them with foreign migrants. They claim that the authorities are interested in zeroing out the people and needing to eliminate as many men as possible. So these hundreds of thousands of mobilized Russian men in the occupied territories, they don't exactly get good information. So they're very confused why they're going on year 4 of their mobilization when they were promised 6 months, a year tops. And the war's not going well. So they've seen so many of their comrades killed. A lot of them have conspiracy theories that it's deliberate for some reason. That their military leadership wants to kill them, to replace them with foreigners or something. It's a conspiracy. It doesn't have to make sense, but these men are desperate and they don't want to do this anymore. I'd never make it home alive. Russia's war in Ukraine turns conscripts into deserters. I've seen informal reports over the last year that the desertion rate in the Russian military has skyrocketed.
That's what I mean with moral. That's what I mean with moral, chat.
She slipped through my fingers like sand. Heard that she got a man. Now I'm just sitting here sad. Oh well, ship sail. She slipped through my fingers like sand.